The Iranian authorities say that 1,000 people have been charged in Tehran over the anti-government protests that have lasted for more than 6 weeks now. The semi-official Tasnim news agency says the trials will be held in public. So let's bring you more with Paham Galbadi, who is from our Persian service. Very good to have you with us. Now, the Tasnim news agency speaks for the Revolutionary Guard. So what does this mean about trials being held in public? What can we expect?
So the trials, they claim that the trial is being held in public. However, I was just on the phone with one of the parents, mother of one of the detainees, and she was telling me, despite that, 2 days ago they held another trial as well. And she said that before the trial started, so the family members and the 2 lawyers went to take part in the trial, and they were barred from entering the courtroom. And she says that, so what kind of public is this trial that you're saying that neither the family members nor the 2 appointed lawyers were allowed in? And they showed them a piece of paper saying that these 2 lawyers were just dropped from the case and we appointed other lawyers for the detainee. So this is all, there's so much lack of transparency on what's going on in this, in these trials. This is on the one hand. On the other hand, we see that IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard, is saying that, is giving ultimatum to the protesters, right? That this is the final day. You're not allowed to come out anymore.
That was on Saturday, wasn't it?
That was on Saturday. But every single day we see, including today, that we see that the students are taking part in the protest all across the country. In every single university, we've receiving pictures. And it's horrifying images because we see this Basij, this notorious militia, entering universities and opening fire on students. We obtained the videos that shows they are shooting at protesters, at students, at university students inside the university.
I mean, it's really difficult for you to be looking at all of this footage and having to verify it for us. How are you getting hold of it?
So parts of it is they just surface on social media. There are different accounts that receive these footages. They distribute it. We get it from them sometimes, and our social media team verifies each and every one of them. And we also receive so many footages. BBC Persian receives so many footages ourselves. There's a new trend in Iran, which is a bit funny, that Iranian youth, because this is called the Generation Z movement. So Iranian youth nowadays are walking on the streets and they're hitting off turbans of Iranian clerics on the street. This is really a controversial move, but this is a Generation Z movement. And this generation, although they've been living under a theocratic regime for 4 decades, we see that they are not abiding by in any shape or form. And that's why IRGC, Revolutionary Guard's warning is not coming to no avail.
And Paham, are there still problems with the internet, or is everyone able to get online and access social media?
So the problem with the internet, it's different from region to region. For example, when there is a mourning ceremony, for example, for Mahsa Amini in Kurdistan, the internet connection drops and there's no connection. The other day, I was here a few days ago talking about Zahedan in northeastern Iran, where there were shootings there. So internet connection suddenly was disconnected and there was no Wi-Fi, no internet connection. So it differs. They connected, disconnected, they connected, disconnected.
As always, we really appreciate all the work you're doing on this, Paham. Thank you.
So, some news just coming into us from the Supreme Court, where former President Trump is now asking the justices to block a House committee from getting his tax records. He basically says the committee doesn't have a good enough reason to try to get their hands on them. I want to bring in NBC's Sahil Kapoor on Capitol Hill. This is kind of it is, Sahil. This is going to be the last stop in this long-running fight between Donald Trump and the House Ways and Means Committee. It's not like there's another court they can go to after the Supreme Court, Sahil.
That's right, Hallie. This is a years-long legal saga, and the Supreme Court is the last entity that gets to decide whether Donald Trump has to release his tax returns to the House committee or whether he can block them. Now, let's rewind to 2016 to explain how this all began. Donald Trump, of course, became the first president that cycle since Gerald Ford not to voluntarily release his tax returns in the course of a campaign. Democrats were aghast at that, and then when they took control of the House of Representatives, they decided to use a law that dates back to 1924 that enables the chairman of the Tax Writing Committee, that is the Ways and Means Committee, to compel the release of a person's tax returns if they could argue that there was a valid legislative purpose for doing so. What Donald Trump's team argues in the filing today with the Supreme Court after he is lost in the lower courts is that the committee does not have a valid legislative purpose. Let's put up a snippet of that statement on the screen. They argue that the committee's purpose in requesting President Trump's tax returns has nothing to do with funding or staffing issues at the IRS and everything to do with releasing the president's tax information to the public. Now, the Ways and Means Committee argues that there is a program in law that subjects a president's tax returns to mandatory IRS review, and their legislative purpose, they're stating, is to make sure that Donald Trump's determination to conceal his tax returns is not imposing a heavy hand and kind of short-circuiting that process. So that is the legal argument that you see on both sides. There are two deadlines here going forward to keep in mind, Hallie. There's the deadline of this coming Thursday. The appeals court mandate to release those tax returns to the committee applies on Thursday if the Supreme Court doesn't weigh in. That's not a lot of time. And a congressional source familiar with this matter says if that mandate goes into effect, then the Ways and Means Committee could get their hands on those tax returns very, very quickly. The second deadline to keep in mind is January 3rd. That is when the new Congress takes effect. And right now, polls say the Republicans are favored to take control of the House. If that holds, if they do take control of the House and get the Ways and Means gavel, they could say, well, we've changed our mind. We don't want those tax returns. And this entire project of the committee getting their hands on those tax returns could be in peril. The next couple days will be very important in determining which way this goes, Hallie.
A Capitol police officer who just took the stand in the Oath Keepers trial blew a hole in one of the defense's theories. Lawyers for Stuart Rhodes and 4 other members of the Oath Keepers on trial have suggested that the group helped Officer Harry Dunn. Dunn just took the stand and said flat out, quote, they didn't. NBC's Ryan Riley is at the D.C. courthouse. Ryan, tell us what happened.
That's right. So this all took place just outside of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office on January 6th. You had Harry Dunn there actually holding a rifle with his gun on his hip and blocking the staircase leading down to the first floor of the Capitol. Essentially what these defense attorneys have suggested is that these individuals that he confronted that had this interaction with Dunn were helping Dunn and keeping other rioters away. But Dunn was sort of having none of that and saying that he stopped them from going down, saying that he stopped other rioters from going down, and that he wasn't working with them in any sort of capacity and wasn't seeking their help. There was another separate incident earlier, just after shots fired down on another floor, which there was apparently some confusion about on the defense team about, where Harry Dunn, there were individuals who did step around Harry Dunn at that moment, but that was sort of an entirely separate incident. Meanwhile, we've got testimony from Graydon Young happening right now, and he's a Florida Oath Keeper who has pleaded guilty not to a seditious conspiracy charge, but to other very serious charges, and is cooperating with the government and talking about how he got sucked into online conspiracy theories on Facebook and YouTube, thought the election was stolen, and was working with the Oath Keepers and traveled to D.C. On January 6th as part of this effort that this trial is sort of all centers around here, Chris.
And a wave of Russian strikes damaged critical infrastructure in at least 4 Ukrainian regions overnight, and Russia is weaponizing grain after a weekend attack. Holly Williams has more from Kyiv now. Holly, good morning.
Good morning, Anne-Marie. Today, this city woke up to air raid sirens as Russia again targeted critical infrastructure, including Ukraine's energy and water facilities, according to authorities here. Ukraine says Russia fired a barrage of more than 50 cruise missiles, claiming it managed to shoot down most but not all of them. With parts of the country experiencing blackouts. Here in Kyiv, officials say 350,000 homes were left without power. Ukraine's foreign minister said, quote, instead of fighting on the battlefield, Russia fights civilians. Targeting critical infrastructure appears to be a new tactic for Russia after its forces suffered a string of embarrassing failures, allowing Ukraine to recapture swaths of its territory. On Saturday, Russia said its Black Sea fleet was attacked by a swarm of Ukrainian drones. In response, Russia suspended a deal which allowed ships carrying grain to leave Ukrainian ports, with Moscow claiming it couldn't guarantee the safety of civilian ships. This war has already caused grain prices to rise globally, increasing hunger in some of the world's poorest countries. And now there are fears they could spike again. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Russia of, quote, blackmailing the world with hunger. Anne-Marie.
Holly Williams, thank you so much, Holly.
We are standing here today to announce that after nearly a half-century of investigative efforts, we have identified the oldest unidentified homicide victim in Massachusetts, known as the Lady of the Dunes. She is Ruth Marie Terry from Tennessee, who was just 37 years old at the time of her death. On July 26, 1974, Ruth was found deceased in the dunes about a mile east of Race Point Ranger Station inside the Cape Cod National Seashore in Provincetown, Massachusetts. At the time, the cause of death was determined to be a blow to the head and is estimated to have occurred several weeks prior. The victim's hands were missing, presumably removed by her killer so she could not be identified through fingerprints, and her head was nearly severed from her body. Since this crime was committed, many investigative and scientific techniques have either improved or been created through new advances in technology. One of these methods is investigative genealogy, which combines the use of DNA analysis with traditional genealogy research and historical records to generate investigative leads for unsolved violent crimes. As investigators, cases like this one haunt us, and the agencies represented here today are constantly reevaluating and coming up with new investigative strategies to try and advance them. We also realize that while we have identified Ruth as the victim of this horrific murder, it does not ease the pain for her family. Nothing can, but hopefully it answers some questions while we continue to look for her killer.